No knock, just two soft cries. When the 30-year-old millionaire opened his door, he saw her, in a light blue dress, holding twins with his smile. "Say hello to your sons," she said without blinking. He reached for denial. What he didn't know was that this morning would cost him his reputation and give him a future he swore he didn't want. But before we dive into the full story, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. Now, subscribe to the channel and let's get started. "I'm sorry to show up like this," the woman said, her voice shaking. "But these are your sons, Elijah and Ethan. They're 6 months old." Blake Williams froze in his doorway, one hand still on the expensive handle of his front door. The morning sun reflected off the Pacific Ocean behind him, illuminating the face of Tiana Reynolds, his former housekeeper who had quit 18 months ago without warning. But it wasn't Tiana who made his heart stop. It was the twin stroller beside her containing 2 infant boys with unmistakable green eyes. His green eyes, staring up at him. "That's impossible," Blake said, his voice tight. He stepped back, creating distance between himself and the babies. "This is some kind of scam." 30 minutes earlier, Blake had been enjoying the perfect Saturday morning in his perfect life. At 35 years old, he had everything money could buy. His glass mansion overlooking the Malibu coastline had been featured in 3 architectural magazines. The smart home security system that had made him rich adjusted the temperature, brewed his coffee, and opened the blinds automatically as he woke up. Blake had padded across his bedroom's heated marble floors to the floor-to-ceiling windows. He watched the waves crash against the shore 200 feet below. His phone buzzed with messages from friends about last night's party and women asking when they would see him again. Blake smiled. $200 million from his company Williams Tech had bought him exactly the life he wanted: luxury, freedom, and 0 commitments. His phone rang with his assistant's name on the screen. "Good morning, Marcus," Blake answered. "Morning, boss. Just confirming the investor meeting is set for Tuesday at 10 o'clock. The Tokyo team will join by video. If they sign, we'll expand to Asian markets by December." "Perfect. Email me the presentation. I'll review it today." "Already sent. Also, Jessica Parker from next door wanted to thank you for the party last night. Said it was, quote, totally Instagram-worthy." Blake laughed. "The social media influencer liked my party? I'm shocked." He walked to his kitchen where his coffee waited in a warmed mug. "Anything else?" "That's it. Enjoy your weekend." Blake sipped his coffee and opened his laptop. The Williams Tech stock was up 5 points yesterday. Another successful week. He scrolled through several party invitations for the evening, trying to decide which would be most entertaining. That's when the doorbell rang. Now, standing face-to-face with Tiana and 2 babies that shared his distinctive dimpled chin, Blake felt his perfect world starting to crack. "This isn't a scam," Tiana said. Her hands gripped the stroller handle tightly. "We were together that night after the Christmas party before I quit. These are your sons." "We used protection," Blake snapped. "It failed." Tiana's eyes hardened. "Look at them, Blake. They have your eyes, your chin." Blake glanced at the babies again. One gurgled and reached out a tiny hand toward him. Blake stepped further back. "What do you want?" "Money?" His voice turned cold, businesslike. "Is that why you're here?" Tiana's face flushed. "I didn't come here for a handout. I came because these boys deserve to know their father, even if he isn't ready to know them." "Then why show up now? Why not right after they were born?" "I had complications during the pregnancy. I've been in and out of the hospital. I lost my apartment. I lost my new job." Tiana's voice cracked. "I didn't want to come here, but I have nowhere else to go." Blake noticed movement in his peripheral vision. His neighbor Jessica Parker was watering plants on her balcony, phone in hand, clearly recording their conversation. Blake lowered his voice. "Come inside. We shouldn't talk about this out here." Tiana struggled to maneuver the double stroller through his doorway. Blake didn't offer to help. Once inside, he closed the door firmly and turned to face her in his spacious, minimalist living room, filled with expensive art and technology. "These can't be my children," Blake insisted. "I can prove it with a DNA test," Tiana said. "I haven't been with anyone else." One of the babies began to fuss. Tiana automatically reached into a diaper bag and pulled out a bottle. As she fed the crying infant, Blake noticed how tired she looked. Her clothes were clean but worn. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. "What exactly do you expect from me?" Blake asked. "I need help," Tiana admitted. "I'm staying with my sister, but her place is tiny. I'm trying to get back on my feet, find a new job, but childcare for twins is expensive." Blake walked to his desk and pulled out his checkbook. "How much will it take to make this problem go away?" Tiana stared at him. "Make this problem go away? These are your sons, not a problem to solve with your checkbook. You clearly came here for money. I came here because they deserve better than a father who sees them as a problem." Tiana's voice rose, waking the second baby who began to cry. Blake winced at the noise. This was exactly why he'd avoided relationships and family. Mess, noise, complications. His perfectly controlled life had no room for any of it. "Look," he said, writing on the check. "This should cover your expenses for a while. Get yourself an apartment, whatever you need." He held out the check. "I'm not father material, never wanted to be. My money is all I can offer." Tiana looked at the check, an amount that would solve her immediate problems but did nothing to address the real issue. Tears filled her eyes. "Your money isn't what they need." She took a deep breath. "I was wrong to come here. I thought maybe when you saw them..." She shook her head and turned the stroller around. "Take the check, Tiana," Blake said, following her to the door. "Keep your money." She pushed the stroller outside. "When they're older and ask about their father, at least I can say I tried." Blake watched her struggle down his long driveway. He noticed Jessica Parker was still on her balcony, phone pointed directly at them. Great. Back inside, Blake tore up the check and poured himself a drink, despite the early hour. This would blow over. Tiana would realize she needed the money and would contact him again, on his terms. He'd make arrangements through his lawyer. Problem solved. His phone rang. It was Sam Rodriguez, his business partner. "Blake, have you seen what's trending on social media? There's a video of you and some woman with babies at your house. People are saying they're your kids that you're denying. What the hell is going on?" Blake's glass slipped from his hand, shattering on the floor. He rushed to his laptop and saw the hashtag already trending. #Williams Tech Dad Drama. His perfectly controlled life had just spiraled completely out of control. Blake's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. All night long, the notifications kept coming. Text messages, missed calls, emails, social media alerts, all because of that video. The sun was barely up when Blake finally gave up on sleep. He grabbed his phone and scrolled through the messages. His parents had called 7 times from Boston. His sister had texted, "Please tell me that's not really you in that video." His business partner Sam had left 3 voicemails, each one sounding more panicked than the last. Blake tapped on the trending link. There it was, Jessica Parker's video of his confrontation with Tiana. The recording started mid-argument, with Blake's cold voice clearly audible. "How much will it take to make this problem go away?" Then the camera zoomed in on Tiana's hurt face as she turned away with the twins. 4 million views, Blake whispered. "This can't be happening." He jumped when his phone rang in his hand. It was Marcus, his assistant. "Boss, I've got bad news," Marcus said, his voice tight. "Williams Tech stock dropped 15% when the market opened. The board called an emergency meeting for 9 o'clock. They want you there." Blake checked the time. 7:30. "I'll be there," he said. "Call Jennifer Chen. I need my lawyer before I talk to anyone." Blake ended the call and headed for the shower. He'd fix this. He always fixed problems. This was just a bigger problem than usual. 45 minutes later, Blake was dressed in his most expensive suit, ready to leave. He opened his front door and froze. At least a dozen reporters stood in his driveway, cameras ready. "Mr. Williams, are those your children in the video? Will you take a paternity test? Have you spoken to the mother since yesterday? Did you really offer to pay her off?" Blake slammed the door shut and leaned against it, heart pounding. He grabbed his phone and called his security team. "I need someone here now. There are reporters all over my property." While he waited, his doorbell rang. Blake checked the security camera and saw Sam Rodriguez standing there alone. He opened the door just enough to let Sam slip inside. "This is a disaster," Sam said. His normally neat appearance was rumpled, like he hadn't slept. "Our biggest clients are calling, asking questions. Family First Safety just pulled their $3 million contract. They said they can't partner with a company whose CEO abandons his own children." "They're not my children," Blake snapped. "Are you sure about that?" Sam pointed at Blake's phone, still lighting up with notifications. "Because the whole country thinks they are, and right now, perception is reality." The doorbell rang again. This time it was Jennifer Chen, Blake's lawyer, a sharp-dressed woman in her 40s. "I've reviewed the situation," Jennifer said after Blake let her in. "We need to get ahead of this immediately. Issue a statement, take a DNA test, and resolve this privately." "I'm not taking a DNA test," Blake said. "That makes it look like I believe they might be mine." "They look exactly like you," Sam pointed out. "The whole internet is sharing side-by-side photos of your eyes and those babies' eyes. They're identical." Jennifer opened her laptop on Blake's dining table. "Here's a draft statement. We say you're taking the situation seriously. We'll work to determine the facts and ask for privacy during this personal matter." Blake read it and frowned. "This makes me sound guilty. This makes you sound responsible," Jennifer corrected. "Right now you look like a heartless millionaire who turned away his own children. We need to change that narrative quickly." After 30 minutes of arguing, Blake finally agreed to record the statement and take the DNA test. The statement was released that afternoon. It was formal and emotionless, promising only to determine the facts of this private matter. For the next week, Blake barely left his house. The stock continued to drop. More clients pulled their contracts. His board members called daily, demanding updates. He avoided his parents' calls and worked from home while the media camped outside his gates. 7 days after the video went viral, Jennifer arrived with an envelope. "The DNA results," she said, handing it to Blake. He opened it slowly, scanning the technical language until he found what he was looking for. Probability of paternity, 99.9%. Blake sat down heavily on his couch. "This can't be right." "It's right," Jennifer said. "Those are your sons. Now we need to meet with Ms. Reynolds and work out an arrangement before this gets worse." 2 days later, Blake drove his red Ferrari through the streets of Inglewood, a working-class neighborhood far from his Malibu mansion. He checked the address Jennifer had arranged for the meeting, a small apartment complex with peeling paint and security bars on the windows. People stared as he parked his expensive car on the street. Blake ignored them and found apartment 4B on the second floor. He knocked, straightening his designer jacket. Tiana opened the door, looking tired but composed. "Come in," she said simply. Blake stepped inside and immediately felt too large for the space. The entire apartment could fit in his living room. A small couch and TV filled most of the main room. In one corner was a single crib where both twins were sleeping. A woman who looked like an older version of Tiana stood in the kitchen doorway, arms crossed. "This is my sister Emma," Tiana said. "We're staying with her until I can find a place." Emma didn't offer to shake hands. "So you're the one who tried to write a check to make your sons disappear?" "Emma, please," Tiana said quietly. "Let's just talk about what happens now." Blake shifted uncomfortably. "I've seen the DNA results. I'll provide financial support. My lawyer is drawing up papers." One of the babies in the crib began to cry. Tiana went over and picked him up. "This is Ethan," she said. "He's usually the fussy one." The baby continued crying. Tiana looked exhausted. "Would you like to hold him?" she asked Blake. "I don't think that's a good idea," Blake said. "I don't know how to hold babies." "Just support his head," Tiana said, already transferring the crying infant to Blake's stiff arms. Blake held the baby awkwardly, terrified he would drop him. Ethan squirmed and cried harder. "Maybe you should take him back," Blake said nervously. But then Ethan suddenly gripped Blake's finger in his tiny hand. The crying stopped. The baby stared up at Blake with identical green eyes. Blake stared back, feeling something shift inside him. The tiny fingers around his finger were surprisingly strong. "He likes you," Tiana said softly. Blake carefully handed Ethan back to Tiana, that strange feeling still lingering in his chest. "I'll help you get a better apartment," he said. "Somewhere safe, with enough space. I'll cover all their expenses." "And what about you?" Tiana asked. "Will you be part of their lives?" Blake looked around the small apartment. He saw a pile of baby clothes in the corner, bottles drying on a dish rack, a stack of diapers on the coffee table. This wasn't his world. "I'll provide everything they need financially," he said firmly. "But I'm not cut out to be a father. My money is what I can offer." Emma made a disgusted sound from the kitchen doorway. "Those boys need more than your money." "The money isn't optional," Tiana said, her voice stronger now. "But you are. That's what you're saying?" Blake nodded. "I think that's best for everyone." Tiana looked down at Ethan, who had fallen asleep in her arms. "You should know, I'm not asking for anything for myself. Everything is for them. I want them to have opportunities I never had." "I understand," Blake said. "I'll have Jennifer draw up the papers. You'll have a new apartment by next week." As Blake walked to the door, Tiana called after him. "They'll know about you someday. What do you want me to tell them?" Blake paused with his hand on the doorknob. The question made that strange feeling return to his chest. "Tell them I made sure they were taken care of," he said, and quickly left. As Blake drove away from the apartment, the image of tiny fingers wrapped around his own kept flashing in his mind, along with Tiana's words. "The money isn't optional, but you are." He gripped his steering wheel tighter and pushed the thought away. He had done the right thing, the responsible thing. The problem would be managed, his company would recover, and his life would return to normal. At least, that's what he told himself as he sped back toward Malibu. 3 weeks passed. Blake sat in his Malibu living room, looking at photos of the new apartment he had rented for Tiana and the twins in Silver Lake. It was in a safer neighborhood with better schools, had 2 bedrooms and a small yard. His lawyer Jennifer had handled all the details, including the monthly support payments that would be automatically deposited into Tiana's account. Blake's phone rang. It was his mother calling from Boston, the 5th time today. "I'm not going to stop calling until you answer, Blake," her voicemail had warned earlier. With a sigh, Blake picked up. "Hello, Mother." "Finally," she said. "Your father and I expect you for dinner this Sunday. Don't even think about making excuses. I'm busy with work. The company stock. We'll still be there after you explain to us how we suddenly have 2 grandsons we've never met." Blake rubbed his eyes. "Fine, Sunday." After hanging up, Blake checked his messages. 3 women had canceled dates with him this week. The last one's text was particularly clear. "Sorry, just saw the news about your kids. Not looking to date a dad right now." His phone buzzed again with a text from Sam. "Board meeting went badly. Stock down another 5 points. We need to fix this fast." Blake tossed his phone aside. His perfectly controlled life was falling apart. The financial arrangements hadn't made the problem go away. If anything, the public interest had grown stronger. That Sunday, Blake sat stiffly at his parents' dining table in their Boston home. His mother, Catherine Williams, placed a roast on the table while his father, Dr. Richard Williams, poured wine with tight-lipped disapproval. "Explain yourself," his father said finally. Blake sipped his wine. "There's nothing to explain. I've taken responsibility." The DNA test confirmed they're mine. I'm providing financial support." His mother sat down. "Financial support? That's your idea of taking responsibility for 2 children? What else am I supposed to do? I don't know anything about babies." "You learn," his mother said sharply, "like every other parent on earth." "I'm not parent material, Mother. You know that." His father put down his glass. "No one is parent material until they become parents. You think I knew what I was doing when you were born? You were never there anyway," Blake muttered. The table went silent. His father looked like he'd been slapped. "And that's your plan too?" his mother asked quietly. "To be an absent father who throws money at his children?" Blake didn't answer. "Money doesn't make a father," she continued. "Your presence does. Your time, your effort." "I have a company to run," Blake argued, "and your sons have a life to live," his father said. "A life that should include their father." Blake left Boston feeling worse than when he arrived. On the flight back to Los Angeles, he made a decision. He needed to learn the basics, if only to protect his public image and help his company recover. The next morning, he called Jennifer. "Find me someone who can teach me about babies, privately, at my house. No one can know about it." 2 days later, Blake opened his door to a tall black man in his 50s with salt and pepper hair and kind eyes. "Dr. Michael Carter," the man introduced himself. "Child Development Specialist." Blake led him to the kitchen. "Let's be clear. I'm not trying to become a full-time father. I just need to know enough basics that I don't look completely clueless if I'm photographed with them." Dr. Carter nodded. "Of course. Let's start with diaper changing." He pulled a realistic baby doll from his bag and placed it on Blake's kitchen counter. "You'll need a changing pad, diapers, wipes, and diaper cream," Dr. Carter explained. Blake watched in horror as Dr. Carter demonstrated the process, explaining each step in detail. "Now you try, Doctor," Carter said. Blake stepped forward reluctantly. The moment he removed the doll's diaper, Dr. Carter sprayed a foul-smelling liquid on it. "What is that?" Blake gagged. "A realistic simulation," Dr. Carter said calmly. "Babies don't smell like your expensive cologne, Mr. Williams." Blake fumbled through the process, nearly gagging several times. "This is disgusting." "This is parenthood," Dr. Carter replied. "Now let's talk about formula preparation." By the end of the 2-hour session, Blake had burned his hand testing formula that was too hot, been sprayed with fake urine, and failed to properly swaddle the doll 5 times. "Same time next week?" Dr. Carter asked as he packed up. Blake, exhausted and humiliated, just nodded. As the weeks passed, Blake continued his secret lessons with Dr. Carter, gradually improving his basic skills. Their conversations often turned philosophical. "Why are you really doing this?" Dr. Carter asked during their 4th session. "To protect my company's image," Blake answered automatically. Dr. Carter gave him a look. "Is that what you want your legacy to be? A good quarterly earnings report?" Blake didn't have an answer. Meanwhile, Tiana was settling into the new apartment with the twins. She had found a night job at a diner that allowed her to be with the babies during the day. She was also taking online classes toward a nursing degree, studying when the twins napped. One afternoon, Blake visited to drop off the support payment check in person, wanting to see how the apartment was working out. "You could just mail these," Tiana said, accepting the envelope. "I wanted to make sure everything was okay with the apartment," Blake said. He stood awkwardly in the living room, noticing toys scattered across the floor and baby clothes hanging to dry on a rack. One of the twins crawled toward him, making happy gurgling sounds. "That's Elijah," Tiana said. "He's the adventurous one." Blake watched the baby approach. After 4 lessons with Dr. Carter, he found himself automatically checking for hazards near the crawling baby. "Would you like to hold him?" Tiana asked, noticing Blake's attention. Sure," Blake said, surprising himself. He awkwardly picked up Elijah, supporting his head like Dr. Carter had taught him. The baby grabbed at Blake's tie with chubby fingers. Tiana looked surprised. "You're better at that than I expected." Blake shrugged. "I've been reading some books." Tiana smiled slightly. "Would you like to see something?" She went to a drawer and pulled out a small black and white photo. This was their first ultrasound. Blake took it with his free hand. 2 tiny shapes were visible in the grainy image. "I was so scared when I found out it was twins," Tiana said softly. "The doctor said I'd need extra care during the pregnancy. That's when I had to quit working for you." Blake looked at her. "Why didn't you tell me then?" "I tried. I left a message with your assistant about needing to talk about something important. You never called back." Blake remembered now. Marcus had mentioned something, but Blake had been busy with a product launch. He had forgotten completely. Ethan began to cry from his playpen. Tiana picked him up and sat on the couch, motioning for Blake to sit too. "Dr. Carter thinks the twins might benefit from spending time in your home," Blake said suddenly. "If you're comfortable with that." Tiana looked surprised. "Dr. Carter?" Blake's face reddened. "He's a child development specialist I've been consulting with." "You hired someone to teach you about babies?" Tiana asked, a smile playing at her lips. "Just the basics," Blake said defensively. Tiana considered this. A supervised visit might be good. "When were you thinking? Sunday afternoon? For a couple of hours?" "I'll bring them over," Tiana agreed. The following Sunday, Blake spent the morning frantically baby-proofing his mansion. He removed valuable art from low shelves, covered electrical outlets, and installed safety locks on cabinets. He even bought a playpen and 2 cribs that he set up in one of his guest rooms. When Tiana arrived with the twins, she looked around in surprise at the transformed space. "You've been busy," she said. "Dr. Carter provided a checklist," Blake admitted. The visit went better than Blake expected. He changed a diaper without gagging, prepared bottles correctly, and even got Ethan to laugh by making silly faces. Before Tiana left, she paused at the door. "Same time next Sunday?" "Yes," Blake said, surprising himself with how much he meant it. As Tiana drove away with the twins, Blake stood in his doorway looking at his huge, empty house. For the first time, all that space felt strangely hollow. He walked back inside and picked up a tiny sock the twins had left behind. Such a small thing to cause such a big change in his life. His phone rang. It was Sam. "Blake, we need to talk about the Tokyo investor. He might be our way out of this mess." Blake tucked the sock into his pocket before answering. "I'll be in the office tomorrow morning." Blake arrived at the Williams Tech headquarters early Monday morning. The building felt different somehow, colder, less welcoming than before. As he walked through the lobby, he noticed employees glancing at him and then quickly looking away. Sam was waiting in the conference room, spreadsheets and reports spread across the table. "We need to talk about our client situation," Sam said without greeting. "It's worse than I thought." Blake sat down. "How bad?" 3 more major clients canceled their contracts yesterday. Safe Home Systems, ProGuard, and Sentinel Security all pulled out. Sam pushed a report toward Blake. They all cited the same reason. They're uncomfortable with the current leadership situation. Blake flipped through the pages. "We lost $15 million in contracts in 2 months? And the board is panicking." Sam lowered his voice. "Some members are suggesting you take a leave of absence until this blows over." "That's ridiculous," Blake snapped. "I built this company. From scratch, I know." Sam sighed. "But our family-focused competitors are using your situation against us. Look at this ad campaign from Family Shield." He turned his laptop to show Blake. The advertisement showed a happy family with the tagline, "We protect families because we value families." Sam continued, "They're gaining market share while we're losing it, but I have an idea." He leaned forward. "What if we pivot to family security products? Lean into your new dad image instead of hiding from it." "I don't have a dad image," Blake protested. "You do now, whether you want it or not." Sam pulled up a presentation. Look, our research team found a gap in the market. Most home security systems aren't designed with children in mind. We could create products specifically focused on keeping kids safe, monitoring systems for nurseries, child-proof door sensors, pool alarms. Blake started to argue but stopped. He thought about his own frantic baby-proofing efforts last weekend. Send me the market research. I'll think about it. Over the next few weeks, Blake split his time between the office and his Sunday visits with the twins. His mansion slowly transformed. A corner of his living room now contained a colorful playpen. Designer furniture shared space with plastic toys. His cleaning service complained about finding baby food in the carpet. During one Sunday visit, Blake was sitting on the floor with Elijah when his phone rang. It was a client call he needed to take. "I have to get this," he told Tiana, handing her the baby. "Again?" she said. "That's the third call today." Blake stepped into his home office, leaving the door cracked so he could see into the living room. As he discussed security specifications with the client, he watched Tiana reading a book to the twins. Ethan kept looking toward the office door, as if wondering where Blake had gone. After the call, Blake returned to the living room. "Sorry about that," he said. "They're starting to recognize you," Tiana mentioned as both babies turned toward Blake when he entered. "They look for you when they hear your voice now." Blake felt something shift inside him at those words. He sat down on the floor again and Elijah immediately crawled toward him. The following day, Blake arrived at work with Tiana's words still echoing in his mind. He called a product development meeting to discuss Sam's idea about family-focused security systems. "The concept is solid," Blake told his team, "but we need to approach it differently than our competitors. What are they missing?" The team brainstormed ideas while Blake listened. Suddenly, he interrupted a senior engineer's presentation. "Wait," Blake said, pointing at the blueprint on the screen. "That gap between the door sensor and the frame is too wide. A baby could fit their finger in there." The room went silent. Everyone stared at Blake. "I mean," Blake continued, slightly embarrassed, "it's a safety hazard for small children. We need to redesign it." The engineer looked confused. "But our standard clearance has always been—" "Our standard needs to change," Blake said firmly. "These products need to be completely safe for children of all ages." After the meeting, Blake's assistant Marcus approached him. "Your social calendar is empty again this weekend," Marcus said. "That's the third weekend in a row. The Andersons are having their annual beach party on Saturday. You never miss that." Blake shrugged. "I have other plans." "With the twins?" Marcus asked carefully. "Yes," Blake admitted. "Dr. Carter thinks consistency is important at this age." Marcus nodded, a slight smile on his face. "I'll keep your weekend clear then." That evening, Blake worked late in his office, reviewing the new product designs. His email pinged with a message from Japan. Takashi Yamamoto, one of the largest technology distributors in Asia, had seen the press release about Williams Tech's new family security focus and was interested in a partnership. Blake immediately called Sam. "Yamamoto wants to meet," Blake said excitedly. "This could save the company. His distribution network covers all of Asia." "That's exactly what we need," Sam replied. "When does he want to meet?" 2 weeks from now in Tokyo. He wants a full presentation of the new product line." 2 weeks? Sam sounded concerned. "Isn't that the twins' first birthday? Tiana mentioned it when she dropped off those paperwork signatures yesterday." Blake paused. He had forgotten. Tiana had been planning the birthday party for weeks. She had invited her sister, some friends from her nursing program, and even Dr. Carter. "It's just a first birthday," Blake said finally. "They won't even remember it. This meeting is too important to reschedule." The next Sunday, Blake told Tiana about the Tokyo trip while the twins played in the playpen. "So you won't be at their birthday party?" Tiana asked, disappointment clear in her voice. "I can't be. This investor could save the company," Blake explained. "I'll send gifts, of course, the best ones available." "Gifts aren't the same as you being there," Tiana said quietly. "They're turning one, Tiana. They won't know the difference." "But I will," she said. "And someday, When they look at the pictures of their first birthday, they'll know too. Blake felt uncomfortable but pushed the feeling aside. This deal is worth millions. It secures their future. That's more important than one party. Tiana picked up Ethan, who had started fussing. You still don't get it, do you? Being there for the moments that matter is what parenting is about. I'm doing my best, Blake said defensively. 3 months ago, I didn't even know how to hold a baby. And you've learned a lot, Tiana acknowledged. But some things can't be taught by Dr. Carter. They have to be experienced. Later that week, Blake met with his travel team to plan the Tokyo trip. He booked a first-class flight and reserved the presidential suite at Tokyo's most exclusive hotel. He arranged for a car service and scheduled meetings with Yamamoto's entire executive team. As Blake finalized the details, Marcus entered his office with a package. "This just arrived for you," Marcus said, placing a small box on Blake's desk. Blake opened it to find 2 identical stuffed bears with tags that read, "My first birthday." There was a note from Dr. Carter. "For the twins' party, every child should have a special toy from their father." Blake put the bears back in the box and set it aside. He returned to his travel itinerary, ignoring the uncomfortable feeling in his chest. That evening, Blake sat alone in his home office, looking at his calendar. The twins' birthday was marked in red on one side. The Tokyo meeting was highlighted in green on the other. Both events were exactly 2 weeks away. Blake opened his laptop and booked his flight to Tokyo. As he clicked confirm, his phone buzzed with a text from Tiana. It was a video of the twins trying to stand up, holding onto the coffee table in their apartment. Blake watched it 3 times before putting his phone away and returning to his trip planning. The Tokyo meeting was just business, he told himself. The most important business of his career. So why did it suddenly feel like he was making the wrong choice? Blake's flight landed in Tokyo on Thursday evening. From the window of the plane, he could see the city lights stretching for miles in all directions. A private car took him to the Imperial Hotel, where he checked into the presidential suite on the top floor. "Mr. Williams, welcome to Tokyo," said the hotel manager, bowing slightly. "Your room offers the finest view of the city skyline." Blake barely noticed the spectacular view as he unpacked his laptop. He had 14 hours before his first meeting with Takashi Yamamoto, head of Asia's largest technology distribution network. This deal could save Williams Tech from the damage of the past few months. "Focus on business," Blake told himself. "That's what you're good at." The next morning, Blake met Yamamoto in a private dining room for breakfast. The Japanese businessman was in his 60s with a calm presence and observant eyes. "Mr. Williams," Yamamoto said, shaking Blake's hand, "I have followed your company's work for many years. Your security systems are excellent." "Thank you," Blake replied. "We're excited about our new family safety products. I think they'll be perfect for the Asian market." They spent the morning discussing technical specifications and market projections. Yamamoto seemed impressed by the presentations, asking detailed questions about the technology. "Your visit is well-timed," Yamamoto said as they finished lunch. "Tomorrow is Children's Day in Japan. Perhaps you would like to visit Akihabara, our electronics district. You might find gifts for your sons." Blake tried not to show his surprise. "You know about my personal situation?" Yamamoto smiled slightly. "In Japan, we research our potential partners thoroughly. Family situations tell us much about a person's character." That afternoon, Blake visited Akihabara with a translator. The streets were filled with electronic stores and toy shops. Blake spent 3 hours selecting educational toys for the twins, advanced building blocks with lights and sounds, interactive language tablets, and robotic animals that responded to touch. "These are for 1-year-olds?" the translator asked, looking doubtful. "They're advanced for their age," Blake said defensively. Back at the hotel, Blake received an email from Marcus with photos of the gifts he'd sent to Tiana's apartment. The enormous boxes looked out of place in her modest living room. "Gifts arrived safely," Marcus wrote. "Tiana says thank you, but mentioned the twins might be too young for most of these items. Blake frowned. The twins' birthday was tomorrow. He checked the time difference, 16 hours between Tokyo and Los Angeles. He had promised Tiana he would video call during the party, which meant getting up at 4 in the morning Tokyo time. He set an alarm and went to bed early. That evening, Yamamoto invited Blake to dinner at an exclusive restaurant. 8 other Japanese executives joined them, all potential distributors for Williams Tech products. "We must celebrate our new partnership," Yamamoto said, ordering sake for the table. The dinner stretched on for hours. Every time Blake checked his watch, another executive wanted to toast to their success or ask about American business practices. It was 11 at night when Blake realized he had missed 2 calls from Tiana. He quickly stepped outside the restaurant and texted her. "So sorry. Important business dinner running late. Can we reschedule the video call? We'll call tomorrow after the party." There was no response. When Blake returned to the table, Yamamoto was watching him closely. "Your children, they are celebrating a birthday soon?" Yamamoto asked. "Today, actually," Blake admitted. "They're turning 1. The table went quiet. "You are not with them for this important day?" asked one of the executives. "Business sometimes requires sacrifices," Blake said, repeating words his own father had often used. Yamamoto nodded slowly. "In Japanese business, we believe a man's family reveals his true character. How he treats his family shows how he will treat his partners." "I'm very committed to my sons," Blake said quickly. "I've set up trust funds for their education. The new apartment I provide is in an excellent school district." "And you are teaching them yourself as well?" Yamamoto asked. "They're still very young," Blake stammered. Yamamoto smiled politely. "My grandfather taught me to fish when I was 3. My father taught me to play baseball when I was 4. These memories are my most valuable inheritance." Blake felt uncomfortable for the rest of the dinner. When he finally returned to his hotel room at 1 in the morning, he checked his phone again. Still no response from Tiana. Unable to sleep, Blake opened his laptop and checked social media. Tiana had posted photos from the birthday party. The twins wore matching outfits with "I'm 1" printed on the front. They sat in high chairs with small cakes in front of them. Tiana's sister Emma was there, along with Dr. Carter and several people Blake didn't recognize. In one photo, the twins were laughing as Tiana blew bubbles over their heads. In the corner of the image, Blake could see his expensive gifts, still in their boxes, untouched. He zoomed in on the twins' faces, covered in cake and pure joy. Something cracked inside Blake's chest. Without thinking, he called his mother. It was 3 in the morning in Boston. "Blake?" His mother answered, her voice thick with sleep. "Is everything all right?" "I'm sorry to wake you," Blake said. "I need to ask you something. What did I miss most about Dad when I was growing up?" There was a pause. "His presence," she finally said. "He worked constantly, just like you do. He missed your first steps, your first words. When he died, you said you couldn't remember a single baseball game he attended or a single school play he saw." Blake was quiet for a moment. "And what did you miss about him?" "The same thing," his mother said softly. "Time. Just time together. No amount of money ever replaced that." After hanging up, Blake lay on his hotel bed, staring at the ceiling. The Tokyo skyline glittered outside his window, but he barely noticed it. He thought about his own father, always absent, always working, the expensive gifts that never made up for the empty chair at school events. Now Blake was doing the exact same thing to his own sons. He didn't sleep at all that night. The next morning, Blake showered and dressed in his best suit. The final meeting with Yamamoto and his team was scheduled for 9 o'clock. This was the moment the entire trip had been building toward, the contract signing that would save Williams Tech. Blake entered the conference room where Yamamoto and 12 executives waited. His presentation materials were arranged perfectly on the table. The contract sat ready for signatures. "Mr. Williams," Yamamoto greeted him, "we are prepared to finalize our agreement today." Blake looked around the room at the expectant faces. Then he looked down at his phone. The lock screen was a photo Marcus had taken of Blake holding both twins during their last visit. "Mr. Yamamoto," Blake said, his voice steady. "I'm very sorry, but I need to leave immediately." The room went silent. "Leave?" Yamamoto repeated. "I need to be with my family," Blake said simply. "My sons had their first birthday yesterday, and I wasn't there. I don't want to miss anything else." He expected anger or disappointment, but Yamamoto's expression changed to something like respect. "Family obligations are understood," Yamamoto said. "We will reschedule." "Thank you for understanding," Blake said, already heading for the door. He rushed back to his hotel room and called the front desk. "I need the first available flight to Los Angeles." While packing his suitcase, Blake pulled out his laptop and began typing frantically. He had an 11-hour flight ahead of him, enough time to create a new proposal that would change everything. As the plane took off, Blake looked out the window at Tokyo becoming smaller below him. For the first time in months, the tightness in his chest was gone. He was making the right choice, finally. He turned back to his laptop and continued working on his plan. By the time he landed in Los Angeles, he would be ready to fight for what truly mattered. Blake's flight from Tokyo landed in Los Angeles at 11 in the morning. He hadn't slept during the 11-hour journey, but he didn't feel tired. His mind was clear for the first time in months. Without stopping at his Malibu home, Blake told the taxi driver to take him directly to Tiana's apartment in Silver Lake. He was still wearing the same suit from his meeting with Yamamoto, now wrinkled from the long flight. When Tiana opened the door, her eyes widened in surprise. "Blake? I thought you were in Tokyo." "I was," he said. His voice cracked slightly. "I missed their birthday. I don't want to miss anything else." Tiana stared at him, trying to understand what had happened. Behind her, Blake could hear the twins making noises in the living room. "Come in," she finally said, stepping aside. The twins were on a play mat on the floor. When they saw Blake, they made happy sounds and began crawling toward him. Without thinking, Blake sat down on the carpet in his expensive suit and let them climb onto his lap. "Hey guys," he said softly, touching their soft hair. "I'm sorry I missed your birthday." Tiana watched from the doorway, her expression a mixture of confusion and caution. "Would you like some coffee?" she asked. "You look exhausted." In the kitchen, while the twins played nearby, Blake told Tiana about his decision to leave the Tokyo meeting. Yamamoto said something that made me think. He said how a man treats his family shows how he'll treat his business partners. Blake stared into his coffee cup. I realized I was becoming my father, always putting work first, missing everything important. "That's quite a revelation," Tiana said carefully. "But what does it mean? For the twins? For your company?" "It means I want to be a real father to Elijah and Ethan. Not just financial support, actually present in their lives." Blake looked directly at her. "I've been working on a plan on the flight home." "What kind of plan?" "A complete change. For me, for Williams Tech, for everything." Blake hesitated. "But first, I need to know what you want, what your plans are." Tiana looked down at her hands. "I've been meaning to talk to you about that. I applied for a nursing program scholarship at Boston University. I found out last week that I got it." "Boston? That's great," Blake said immediately. "You think so?" Tiana looked surprised. "I wasn't sure how to tell you, because of the custody implications, I mean." "Then we'll figure it out," Blake said firmly. "Your dreams matter too, Tiana. The twins need both of us to be the best versions of ourselves." "I didn't expect you to say that," Tiana admitted. "I wouldn't have said it a week ago," Blake replied. "Things change." The next morning, Blake wore his most conservative suit to the emergency board meeting. Sam had called him 6 times since his return from Tokyo, each message more panicked than the last. "You walked out on Yamamoto?" Sam hissed as they met outside the conference room. Do you have any idea what you've done?" "I do," Blake said calmly, "and I'm about to fix it." The entire board of directors sat around the long table, their expressions ranging from anger to disappointment. The chairwoman, Helen Grant, spoke first. "Mr. Williams, your behavior has put this company in jeopardy. Walking out of the Yamamoto meeting was the final straw. The board is voting today on whether to remove you as CEO." Blake nodded. "I understand. Before you vote, I'd like to present a new direction for Williams Tech." He connected his laptop to the projector and began his presentation. "Williams Tech was founded to create security systems, but we've been thinking too narrowly about what security really means." Blake clicked to the first slide showing a family photo. True security isn't just about keeping intruders out, it's about creating safe environments where families can thrive. For the next 30 minutes, Blake outlined his vision. Williams Tech would focus exclusively on family safety products. Their target market would be working parents who needed reliable ways to keep their children safe. "We'll create systems specifically designed for families with young children, monitors that track air quality in nurseries, door sensors sized for tiny fingers, pool alarms that can't be disabled by curious toddlers." The board members exchanged glances as Blake continued. "I'm proposing we relocate our headquarters to Boston, where there's a concentration of top engineering talent from MIT and Harvard. We'll implement industry-leading parental leave policies and flexible work arrangements for employees with families. This is a complete departure from our current business model," Helen pointed out. "And Boston? That's a massive change." "Change is necessary," Blake replied. "Our current model isn't working. Our stock has dropped 30% in 4 months." "Because of your personal scandal," a board member interjected. "Partly," Blake acknowledged, "but also because we've lost touch with what our customers truly need." As the discussion grew heated, Blake's phone pinged with an email. He glanced down and smiled. "I've just received a message from Takashi Yamamoto," Blake announced. He writes, "After witnessing Mr. Williams choose family over business, I am more interested than ever in partnering with Williams Tech. A man who understands what matters will build products that matter." The room went silent. "Yamamoto wants to move forward?" Sam asked incredulously. "He does," Blake confirmed. "He believes our new direction aligns with Asian family values. He's offering exclusive distribution rights across Asia." The mood in the room shifted visibly. "We'll need time to consider all this," Helen finally said. "The board will give you 3 months to prove this new direction can succeed." "Thank you," Blake said, gathering his materials. "You won't regret it." Over the next few weeks, Blake threw himself into implementing his plan. He flew to Boston twice to look at potential office locations and find a family-friendly home near the university where Tiana would study. During one visit to Boston, Blake had dinner with his parents. His father seemed different, quieter, more reflective. "I've been thinking about what you said," his father said as they sat alone after dinner, his mother having gone to make coffee. "About me not being present when you were growing up." "Dad, I wasn't trying to—" "No, you were right," his father interrupted. "I thought providing financially was enough. It wasn't." He looked at Blake with tired eyes. "Don't make my mistakes." "I'm trying not to," Blake said softly. Back in Los Angeles, Blake made another dramatic change. He installed a playpen in the corner of his office and brought the twins to work one day each week. His employees were shocked at first, but quickly adjusted to seeing the CEO with babies on his hip during meetings. During one product development meeting, Blake was discussing safety features with his team when Elijah, who had been cruising along the edge of the conference table, suddenly let go and took 2 wobbly steps on his own. "He's walking!" Blake exclaimed, immediately stopping the meeting. He grabbed his phone to record the moment as Elijah took 3 more uncertain steps before plopping down on his bottom. The entire team applauded while Blake knelt on the floor, encouraging Elijah to try again. "Try sending it to Tiana," his assistant Marcus suggested, smiling at the scene. Blake immediately texted the video to Tiana with the message, "First steps, in the middle of my meeting." She replied almost instantly, "That's amazing. Ethan will be jealous. Now the race begins." As the engineers awkwardly waited for their CEO to finish his celebration, Marcus leaned against the wall, shaking his head with a smile. "6 months ago, you would have fired someone for bringing kids to a meeting," he observed. Blake looked up from where he sat on the floor, his expensive suit wrinkled, his tie loosened, and a proud smile on his face. "6 months ago, I didn't understand what was irreplaceable," he replied, helping Elijah stand for another attempt at walking. That evening, Blake drove home to his Malibu mansion. The place felt enormous and empty after spending the day with the twins. He walked from room to room, looking at the modern furniture, the expensive art, the perfect view of the ocean. None of it felt like home anymore. Blake pulled out his phone and called his real estate agent. "I want to list the house," he said. "I'm moving to Boston." 6 months later, the Boston neighborhood of Brookline looked nothing like Malibu. Instead of glass walls and ocean views, Blake's new home had brick walls, wooden floors, and a yard with actual grass. The colonial-style house sat on a quiet street lined with trees, just a 15-minute drive from Boston University, where Tiana had started her nursing program. "The moving truck is here with the last boxes from California," Blake called upstairs, where Tiana was helping the twins get dressed. The house had 4 bedrooms, one for Blake, one for Tiana, one for the twins, and a guest room. Blake had insisted on buying a place with a separate apartment on the ground floor so Tiana could have her own space while still being close to the twins. "I can't believe you sold that amazing Malibu house for this," Tiana said as she came downstairs with a twin on each hip. "This is better," Blake said simply, taking Ethan from her arms. "They have a yard to play in." Williams Tech's new headquarters occupied 3 floors of an office building in downtown Boston. Many employees had relocated from California, eager to be part of the company's new direction. The family safety product line was already showing promising sales figures, and Yamamoto's distribution network had opened the Asian market just as Blake had hoped. Not everyone supported Blake's transformation. 3 board members had resigned in protest of the move to Boston. Several of Blake's longtime friends had stopped calling after he turned down too many party invitations. Blake Williams in the suburbs with toddlers, his former girlfriend had laughed during their last phone call. "I never thought I'd see the day." Blake didn't care. His life now revolved around work and the twins, who had recently turned 18 months old. His modern furniture had been replaced with child-friendly pieces. Every cabinet in the house had safety locks. Family photos hung on walls that once displayed expensive art. One evening, Blake hosted a dinner for both families. Tiana's sister Emma flew in from California. Blake's parents drove over from their retirement community in nearby Cambridge. The twins provided entertainment by showing off their wobbly walking skills. "They're getting so big," Blake's mother said, helping in the kitchen. "You seem different too, Blake. Happier." "I am," he admitted as he chopped vegetables. The dinner started awkwardly. Emma, who had been Blake's harshest critic from the beginning, kept giving him suspicious looks. Blake's father tried too hard to make conversation with Tiana. The twins helped break the tension by throwing food and making everyone laugh. After dessert, Emma helped Blake clear the dishes. "You know, I was ready to hate you forever," she said quietly. "The way you treated Tiana when she showed up at your door that day. I was awful," Blake agreed. "Yes, you were," Emma nodded. "But you're not that man anymore, the one who tried to write a check to make his problems go away." "Thank you for saying that," Blake said. "It means a lot." Blake and Tiana had established clear co-parenting boundaries. They shared a digital calendar with all the twins' doctor appointments, play dates, and activities. They had agreed on basic rules and routines. They maintained separate living spaces and separate lives, united only by their commitment to the twins. "Daddy, book!" Elijah demanded one evening, toddling into Blake's home office with a picture book about trucks. "Just a minute, buddy," Blake said, finishing an email. "Then we'll read." Blake had learned to balance work with fatherhood, something his own father never managed. 3 evenings a week, he attended parenting classes at the local community center. He was always the only father and certainly the only millionaire in the group, but he took notes like a serious student. "The terrible twos are coming," warned Ms. Peterson, the class instructor. "Tantrums are normal at this age. They have big feelings but limited language." Blake wrote everything down. He was determined to be prepared. When the twins caught their first serious fever, Blake and Tiana spent a long night taking turns comforting them. By 3 in the morning, Tiana looked exhausted. "Go sleep for a few hours," Blake insisted. "I'll stay up with them." "Are you sure?" Tiana asked, barely able to keep her eyes open. "I'm sure. We've got this under control," Blake said, already taking Ethan's temperature again. Through the night, Blake sat in the rocking chair holding his 6 sons, applying cool washcloths to their foreheads and giving medicine at the correct times. By morning, their fevers had broken. When Dr. Carter visited Boston for a child development conference, he stopped by Blake's house for dinner. "I almost didn't recognize you," Dr. Carter laughed, watching Blake efficiently change Ethan's diaper while Elijah clung to his leg. "Very funny," Blake said, securing the clean diaper in one smooth motion. "I'm serious, Doctor," Carter said. "You haven't just learned to parent, you've learned to connect. That's the part most people struggle with." Later, when the twins were asleep, Blake confided something surprising to Dr. Carter. "My business sense has actually improved since all this happened," he said. "I understand what our customers truly need now. I can see problems and solutions I would have missed before. Emotional intelligence enhances all other forms of intelligence," Dr. Carter replied. As Tiana's nursing program intensified, Blake adjusted his work schedule. On days when she had morning classes, he took the twins to his office or worked from home. When she had evening labs, he made dinner and handled bedtime routines. One Saturday morning, Blake took the twins to a neighborhood park. While they played in the sandbox, he sat on a bench nearby. Another man sat down beside him, also watching a toddler. "First time at this park?" the man asked. "Yes," Blake replied. "We moved here a few months ago from California." "I'm Dave," the man said. "That's my daughter Lily in the red coat." "Blake, those are my sons, Elijah and Ethan." Dave nodded. "Twins, double trouble. I'm a single dad too. Any chance you're looking for a decent daycare? The waiting lists around here are crazy." "Actually, yes," Blake said. "We've been on 3 waiting lists for 2 months." "Try Sunshine Corner on Maple Street," Dave suggested. "My sister's kids went there. They sometimes have openings for siblings because they keep families together." They talked for 20 minutes about daycare options, pediatricians, and the best children's haircut place in the neighborhood. Blake exchanged phone numbers with Dave, feeling like he'd made his first real friend in Boston. That evening, Blake found Tiana at the kitchen table surrounded by medical textbooks. The twins were in their high chairs eating dinner. "How was your anatomy exam?" Blake asked, setting down his laptop case. "Hard," Tiana sighed. "I'm still struggling with all the muscle groups." "Want me to quiz you while I feed the boys the rest of their dinner?" Blake offered. "Would you? That would be so helpful." Blake took over feeding the twins while quizzing Tiana on muscle names and functions. Ethan smeared carrots in his hair while Elijah tried to feed his stuffed bear. "Gastrocnemius," Blake read from the flashcard. "Calf muscle, plantar flexion of the foot," Tiana recited. "Correct. Sternocleidomastoid. Neck muscle, rotation and flexion of the head." As they continued this routine, Blake feeding messy toddlers while quizzing Tiana, his phone rang. It was Sam calling from California. "Blake, we have a serious problem," Sam said, his voice tense. "There's been a security breach in our system. Customer data has been compromised." Blake's stomach tightened. "How bad?" "Bad. The stock dropped 30% today. The board is calling for you to return to California immediately." Blake looked at the domestic scene before him. Tiana studying hard for her future, the twins happy in their high chairs, the life he'd carefully built over the past months. "I'll be on the first flight tomorrow," Blake said, his mind already racing with possible solutions. After hanging up, Tiana looked at him with concern. "What's wrong?" "There's a security breach at Williams Tech. I need to go to California." Blake tried to keep his voice calm. "For how long?" "I don't know yet. A few days, hopefully." Blake looked at the twins, who were oblivious to the crisis, happily playing with their food. "Your nursing exams are next week, aren't they?" "Yes," Tiana confirmed. "And the twins have their developmental assessments on Wednesday." Blake nodded, thinking quickly. "I'll call my parents. They can help with childcare while I'm gone. We'll make this work." As he wiped carrots from Ethan's face, Blake was already forming a plan. This crisis would test everything he had built: his new priorities, his restructured company, his commitment to being present for his sons. But unlike the Blake of 6 months ago, he now understood what was truly at stake. Blake was up all night setting up an emergency command center in his home office. His laptop, 3 extra monitors, and stacks of security protocol documents covered his desk. The security breach at Williams Tech was worse than initially reported. Customer data for over 50,000 users had been exposed, including home addresses and security system layouts. "This is a nightmare," Blake told Sam during a video call at 3 in the morning. "Who would have access to this level of data?" "That's what we can't figure out," Sam replied, looking exhausted. "The breach came from inside our system, but the security team can't trace the source." Before his flight to California, Blake prepared detailed schedules for the twins. He created a binder with their daily routines, favorite foods, bedtime stories, and emergency contacts. "Their blankets need to be washed with this specific detergent," Blake explained to his mother, who had arrived to help Tiana. "Ethan won't sleep without his blue bear. Elijah needs his nightlight on." "Blake, I raised you. I think I can handle 2 toddlers," his mother said gently. "I know, but they have specific routines now," Blake insisted, adding more notes to the already overstuffed binder. Before leaving, Blake sat in the twins' room and recorded videos of himself reading their favorite bedtime stories. "This is so they won't forget my voice," he explained to Tiana, who watched from the doorway. "It's only going to be a few days," she said. "I know, but still." Blake finished recording and stood up. "Your nursing exams start Tuesday. Don't worry about anything else. My parents will handle the twins during your study time." Tiana nodded. "Just fix the problem and come back. We'll be fine." The flight to California felt much longer than it had 6 months ago. Blake spent the entire journey reviewing security protocols and customer data. Something didn't add up about this breach. In California, Blake went directly to Williams Tech's old headquarters. The building felt strange now, like visiting a place from a past life. Only a skeleton crew remained since most of the team had relocated to Boston. "Show me everything," Blake told the security team. For the next 48 hours, Blake barely slept. He pored over logs, security reports, and access records. Every night he video called the twins before their bedtime. "Dada, Dada!" they would shout, trying to touch his face on the screen. "I miss you guys," Blake told them. "I'll be home soon." On the 3rd day, Blake noticed something in the access logs, a pattern of late-night logins from an administrative account that should have been deactivated months ago. "This account belonged to Gregory Phillips," the head of security explained. "He was executive VP before the move to Boston." "Phillips," Blake repeated, suddenly understanding. "He resigned when we announced the relocation. He was furious about it." Blake called the FBI Cybercrime Division. With their help, they traced the breach directly to Phillips, who had kept a backdoor into the system and deliberately exposed customer data to damage the company. "We'll need you to stay in California to file formal charges and work with investigators," the FBI agent told Blake. "This could take a couple of weeks." "Weeks?" Blake's heart sank. "I told my family I'd be home in a few days." "I'm sorry, Mr. Williams, but this is now a federal investigation." Blake called Tiana with the bad news. 2 weeks?" she repeated, sounding stressed. "Blake, I have finals coming up, and the twins' developmental assessment is tomorrow." "I know, I'm sorry. Can my parents keep helping?" Blake asked. "They're trying, but the twins keep asking for you. Ethan cried for an hour after your call last night, calling for Dada over and over." Blake felt a physical pain in his chest. "I'm trying to get this resolved as fast as possible." As days turned into a week, then 10 days, the twins began showing more signs of confusion. During video calls, they would look behind the screen, trying to find Blake. Tiana reported that they were having trouble sleeping and were more fussy than usual. "They don't understand why you disappeared," she explained. Meanwhile, the Williams Tech Board of Directors called an emergency meeting. Blake attended virtually from California. "This breach has cost us millions," said Helen Grant, the chairwoman. "Our stock is down 30%. Customers are canceling contracts." "We're fixing the security issues," Blake assured them. "The FBI is building a case against Phillips." "That's not enough," Helen replied. "The board believes the company needs more stability. Your constant travel between Boston and California isn't working." Another board member, Richard Torres, spoke up. "Several investors have approached us with concerns. They don't understand why our CEO lives 3,000 miles from our original base of operations." "Our headquarters is in Boston now," Blake reminded them. "Perhaps that was a mistake," Helen suggested. "We'd like to propose a solution. Return to California permanently as CEO or step down and remain in Boston as a minor shareholder." "You're asking me to choose between my company and my family," Blake said quietly. "We're asking you to choose what's most important to you," Helen corrected. Blake asked for 24 hours to consider his decision. That night he drove to his Malibu mansion, which still hadn't sold. The house was empty except for a few pieces of furniture covered with white sheets. His footsteps echoed on the marble floors. Blake walked through the rooms that had once defined his success. The view of the Pacific Ocean was still breathtaking. His old life seemed to whisper from every corner: the freedom, the parties, the simple clarity of pursuing wealth above all else. Several investors had called, offering significant financial incentives if he would return to California permanently. His old contacts were eager to welcome him back to the social scene. The path back to his former life was wide open. Blake sat on the floor of his empty living room and video called Tiana. She answered immediately, looking tired but pleased. "I got my exam results," she said. "I aced them all." "That's amazing," Blake said genuinely. "I knew you would. Do you want to say goodnight to the boys? They're still awake." She turned the phone toward the twins who were in their pajamas playing with blocks on the floor. "Dada!" they both shouted when they saw him. "Dada home?" Blake felt his eyes burn with unexpected tears. "Not tonight, guys. Soon." After the call ended, Blake sat in silence for a long time. Then he made a series of phone calls that lasted well into the night. The next morning, Blake called an emergency board meeting. Everyone expected him to either accept their ultimatum or negotiate for more time. Instead, Blake opened the meeting with a statement no one anticipated. "I'm stepping down as CEO of Williams Tech, effective immediately," he announced. "I'll remain with the company as Chief Innovation Officer, working primarily from Boston with monthly trips to California." The board members exchanged shocked glances. "However," Blake continued, "I'm not leaving you without leadership. I'm promoting Maria Chen to CEO. She's been our Chief Technology Officer for 5 years and knows our systems better than anyone. She helped design our new family safety products and has been quietly running most of the day-to-day operations already." Maria, who was attending the meeting virtually from Boston, looked surprised. "Blake, we should discuss this privately first," Helen began. "There's nothing to discuss," Blake said firmly. "I've made my decision. You asked me to choose what's most important, and I have. My family comes first. But I'm not abandoning Williams Tech. I'm putting it in better hands than mine." After a heated discussion that lasted 3 hours, the board reluctantly agreed to Blake's plan. Maria Chen would become CEO, while Blake would focus on product innovation and strategic partnerships from Boston. 2 days later, Blake stood at the Boston airport waiting for his luggage. He had been gone for exactly 14 days. The FBI had arrested Gregory Phillips that morning, and the company had implemented new security protocols. Blake heard them before he saw them, the excited shrieks of two toddlers running through the terminal. "Dada! Dada!" Blake dropped his carry-on bag as the twins ran toward him. He knelt down and opened his arms just in time to catch them both. They crashed into him with the full force of 18-month-old excitement, nearly knocking him over. "I missed you guys so much," Blake said, hugging them tightly. Tiana walked up more slowly, smiling at the reunion. "They've been asking for you every 5 minutes since we told them we were picking you up." Blake stood lifting both twins in his arms. "How were your finals?" "Perfect scores," Tiana said proudly. "And the developmental assessment went well too. They're right on track for their age." That evening, back at home, Blake pushed the twins on their backyard swing set. His phone kept buzzing with messages from board members and executives reacting to his decision. Blake ignored them all. From the kitchen window, Tiana watched him playing with the twins. She came outside with a cup of coffee for him. "So you're not the CEO anymore," she said, handing him the cup. "No," Blake confirmed. "Just Chief Innovation Officer now. Are you okay with that?" Blake looked at the twins, who were now chasing each other around the yard, laughing uncontrollably when one would fall and get back up again. "I've never been more okay with anything in my life," he said. As the sun began to set, Blake's phone buzzed one more time. It was a message from the FBI confirming that they had found solid evidence on Phillips's computer. The case was strong. The company would recover. Blake put his phone away and called to the twins. "Who wants a piggyback ride before bedtime?" Two excited toddlers ran toward him, both shouting, "Me! Me!" A year passed quickly. Blake settled comfortably into his role as Chief Innovation Officer at Williams Tech. He worked primarily from his home office in Boston, traveling to California once a month for 3 days of in-person meetings. The company had recovered from the security breach, and their family-focused product line was now their fastest-growing segment. The twins were now 2.5 years old, with distinct personalities emerging daily. Elijah was bold and adventurous, always climbing and jumping. Ethan was thoughtful and careful, observing everything before trying something new. Both boys had Blake's green eyes and dimpled chin, but their smiles were all Tiana. Blake's daily routine had a rhythm he never imagined enjoying. He dropped the twins at preschool 3 mornings a week, waving goodbye as they joined their friends in the colorful classroom. On those days, he worked from his home office until 2 o'clock when he picked them up again. "Daddy, I made this!" Elijah would usually shout, holding up a finger painting or clay creation. "Look what I found," Ethan would say more quietly, showing Blake a special rock or leaf. Blake kept every painting, every rock, every leaf. His office shelves, once filled with business awards, now displayed children's artwork and treasures. Tiana had thrived in her nursing program, often studying late into the night after the twins were asleep. She lived in the separate apartment on the ground floor of Blake's house, maintaining her independence while staying close to the boys. They had developed a comfortable co-parenting relationship based on mutual respect. "The twins need a bath tonight," Tiana would text. "I have a study group until 9. "Already planned," Blake would reply. "Good luck with your group." They shared family dinners several times a week, with Blake cooking surprisingly decent meals he had learned from online classes. On weekends, they often took the twins to the park together, each parent running after a different energetic toddler. Blake's parents had become active grandparents, regularly visiting from their retirement community nearby. His father, seeing Blake's relationship with the twins, had begun his own journey toward emotional openness. "I was wrong," his father admitted during one visit, watching Blake patiently help the twins build a block tower. "I thought success was measured by achievements and money. You found a better way." When Tiana completed her first year of nursing school with honors, Blake organized a surprise celebration at their home. He invited her sister Emma from California, his parents, and several of Tiana's classmates. "Speech," everyone called after dinner. Tiana stood, looking embarrassed but happy. "I couldn't have done this without all your support. Especially you, Blake." A year ago, I never would have believed we could make this work so well. After the guests left, Tiana pulled Blake aside in the kitchen. I need to talk to you about something important. What's up? Blake asked, loading dishes into the dishwasher. I've received offers for my clinical internship next semester. Tiana looked nervous. One is at Boston General, which would be convenient, but the best program is at UCLA Medical Center in Los Angeles. They specialize in pediatric care, which is what I want to focus on. Blake stopped what he was doing. That's in California. Yes, Tiana said. It's a 6-month program. I'd need to move temporarily, which means the twins would go with you. Blake finished her thought. Tiana nodded. Or they could stay here with you. Or we could figure out some other arrangement. I wanted to discuss it before I make any decisions. Blake was quiet for a moment, thinking about not seeing the twins every day for 6 months. The thought made his chest tighten. But then he looked at Tiana's face, her determination, her hard work, her dreams. You should take the UCLA position, he said firmly. Really? Tiana looked surprised. It's the best program, right? For what you want to do? Yes, definitely. Then you should go. Blake leaned against the counter. We'll figure out the logistics. Maybe the twins stay with you for 3 months, then with me for 3 months. Or maybe I open a temporary office in Los Angeles. Their home is wherever we both can be part of their lives. Tiana's eyes filled with tears. I didn't expect you to be so supportive. That's what co-parents do, Blake said simply. We support each other's goals because it makes us better parents. 2 weeks later, Blake faced his own professional crossroads. Maria Chen, the new CEO, called him about an exciting opportunity. Children's hospitals across the country want us to develop a specialized security system, she explained. After that high-profile kidnapping case in Chicago last month, hospitals are desperate for better protection. That sounds perfect for our family safety focus, Blake agreed. Here's the issue, Maria continued. This would be a major project. You'd need to visit hospitals in at least 6 cities to understand their specific needs. That means travel. Blake thought about his promise to be present for the twins. How much travel? Maybe 1 week per month for 6 months, Maria estimated. I know that's a lot with your family situation. Blake didn't answer immediately. That evening, he took the twins to the neighborhood park where they had a regular play date with other preschoolers. While the children played in the sandbox, Blake sat with several other parents, including his friend Dave. Work dilemma, Blake explained. I have the chance to develop a security system for children's hospitals. It could potentially protect thousands of kids. But, Dave prompted, but it would mean traveling 1 week each month. I'd miss things with the twins. A mother named Rachel joined the conversation. I travel for work too. It's hard, but I video call my daughter every night. We read books together on the screen. Another father, Miguel, offered his perspective. My wife and I both work full-time. We tag team childcare. The key is quality time when you are there. Blake listened to their varied experiences, appreciating their honesty. By the time they left the park, he had made his decision. The next day, Blake called Maria. I'll take the project, but with conditions. I want a distributed team model so most work can be done remotely, and I need to limit travel to 1 week per month, scheduled well in advance. Done, Maria agreed immediately. When can you start? Blake converted part of his home into a state-of-the-art virtual collaboration space. He installed large screens, advanced audio equipment, and secure connections to work with team members across the country without leaving Boston. The project launched successfully, with Blake coordinating experts from various fields. He scheduled his required hospital visits during the weeks Tiana didn't have major exams or clinical rotations, so she could stay with the twins. One Monday morning, Blake was giving a virtual presentation to his team when a pipe burst at the twins' preschool. All parents received an emergency text to pick up their children immediately. I have to go, Blake told his team. The twins' preschool is flooding. When Blake arrived, chaos reigned. 20 toddlers were crying as teachers tried to gather belongings from wet classrooms. The director looked stressed. "We'll need to close for at least a week for repairs," she explained to the gathering parents. Blake had a sudden idea. "Williams Tech has a community room in our office building. It's not being used. You could hold classes there temporarily." The director looked stunned. "Really? That would solve everything." 2 days later, the entire preschool had relocated to the Williams Tech building's community room. Blake could hear children singing and laughing from his office. The arrangement brought his work and family worlds together in unexpected ways. During an important video conference with hospital administrators, Blake was presenting a new security design when his office door burst open. Elijah and Ethan ran in, having escaped from their teacher during a bathroom break. "Daddy, look!" Elijah held up a drawing of what might have been a dog or possibly a spaceship. Blake froze for a moment, looking between his children and the serious faces on the screen. Then he made a choice. "Everyone, these are my sons, Elijah and Ethan," Blake said, lifting each boy onto his lap. "They attend the preschool that's temporarily in our building." To Blake's surprise, the hospital administrators smiled. "My grandson is about their age," said one doctor, always interrupting Zoom calls. Blake showed the twins' drawing to the camera. "What do you think of our new security interface? My design team here has some feedback." Everyone laughed as the twins added their opinions about the colorful prototype, pointing at the screen and babbling excitedly. After the call, Blake received an email from Takashi Yamamoto, who had been quietly observing the meeting. "Today I witnessed the embodiment of Williams Tech's values. A company that truly understands family creates products that truly protect families. Most impressive." That evening, as Blake helped Tiana study for an anatomy exam while the twins napped nearby, he realized they had created something neither of them had planned, but both now treasured. A foundation for the twins built on cooperation rather than convention. "I got accepted to that UCLA program," Tiana said, looking up from her textbook. "I start in January." "Then we'd better start planning," Blake replied. "The twins will need to feel secure during the transition." Tiana smiled gratefully. "When I first showed up at your door with them, I never imagined we'd be here now." "That makes two of us," Blake said, looking at the sleeping twins. "But I wouldn't change it for anything." 3 years had passed since Tiana first appeared at Blake's Malibu mansion with twin babies. So much had changed since that day. The twins were now 4 years old, attending preschool 4 days a week. Blake lived in the same comfortable Boston home, though he had finally converted the separate apartment into a playroom after Tiana moved into her own place nearby. Williams Tech had thrived under Maria Chen's leadership as CEO. Blake's innovations in family safety technology had earned industry awards, particularly the Children's Hospital Security System now implemented in over 100 hospitals nationwide. Blake maintained a 4-day workweek, keeping Fridays sacred for activities with Elijah and Ethan. The twins had grown into energetic, curious boys with their father's green eyes and their mother's warm smile. Tiana had completed her nursing program with honors. Her 6-month internship at UCLA had been challenging for everyone, but they had made it work. Blake opened a temporary office in Los Angeles for 3 of those months, and the twins spent the other 3 months with Tiana while Blake visited every weekend. Now Tiana worked as a pediatric nurse at Boston Children's Hospital, her dream job. On a sunny Saturday in June, Blake was hanging decorations in a community park for the twins' 4th birthday party. "Daddy, is this straight?" Elijah asked, holding one end of a banner while Blake secured the other to a tree. "Perfect, buddy," Blake assured him. The homemade banner read, "Happy 4th birthday, Elijah and Ethan," in bright colors and uneven letters, a project they had worked on together. "When will everyone come?" Ethan asked, carefully arranging plastic cups on a picnic table. "Soon," Blake said, checking his watch. "The party starts at noon." Blake looked around at the simple decorations, balloons tied to park benches, a table with a homemade cake, and a pile of presents wrapped in colorful paper. Nothing like the extravagant parties he used to throw in Malibu, but somehow much better. Tiana arrived with her sister Emma, who was visiting from California. "The cake looks great," Tiana said, adjusting the candles. She wore her hair in a neat ponytail, dressed casually in jeans and a t-shirt that read Boston Children's Hospital. "I stayed up until midnight finishing it," Blake admitted. "Turns out decorating a cake is harder than it looks." Emma laughed. "You've really changed, Blake. I remember when you couldn't even make coffee." "I had machines for that," Blake said with a smile. Guests began arriving, families from the twins' preschool, neighbors from their street, Tiana's colleagues from the hospital. Blake's parents came with armfuls of presents. Dr. Carter arrived with his wife. Even Blake's former assistant Marcus, now a Williams Tech executive, came with his family. The party was simple but joyful. Children ran through the grass playing tag. Parents chatted in groups, sharing stories and advice. The twins blew out their candles together after everyone sang "Happy Birthday." As Blake cut slices of cake for the children, Marcus stood beside him. "Remember your 35th birthday party?" Marcus asked quietly. "You rented that yacht and had that famous DJ." Blake laughed. "That feels like someone else's life now." "You seem different," Marcus observed. "Happier." Blake watched Elijah help a smaller child climb onto a swing. He saw Ethan carefully sharing his toys with another boy. "The old Blake measured success by his bank account," he said thoughtfully. "Now I measure it by how many times my sons smile when they see me." After the cake, the children played games organized by Tiana and Emma. Blake's father joined in, chasing giggling preschoolers across the grass. Blake noticed how much more relaxed his father seemed now, how much more present. "He's good with them," Tiana said, appearing beside Blake. "He's trying to be the grandfather he never got to be as a father," Blake replied. When the party began winding down, Blake and Tiana sat on a park bench watching the twins play with their new toys. "I have news," Tiana said. "I've been offered a fellowship at Boston Children's. It's a 2-year program in pediatric emergency care." "That's amazing," Blake said genuinely. "You've worked so hard for this." "It means longer hours," Tiana explained. "Some overnight shifts. I'll need more help with the boys." "Whatever you need," Blake said immediately. "We'll adjust our schedule. The boys can stay with me on your overnight shifts." Tiana smiled gratefully. "Thank you. I couldn't do this without your support." "That's what we do," Blake said simply. "We support each other." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the children play. Blake thought about their journey, from that tense confrontation at his Malibu door to this peaceful moment in a Boston park. "Remember when you showed up at my house with 2 6-month-old babies?" Blake asked. "How could I forget?" Tiana laughed. "You looked like you'd seen a ghost." "I was terrified," Blake admitted, "not just of being a father, but of anything disrupting my perfectly controlled life. And now? Now I know that control is overrated. The best parts of life are the messy, unplanned parts." Blake watched as Ethan fell down, got back up, and kept running without missing a beat. Like them. As the sun began to set, families said goodbye and headed home. The twins, exhausted from excitement, fell asleep in their car seats on the drive home. At Blake's house, he and Tiana carefully carried the sleeping boys to their beds. Blake's parents had already left for their retirement community. Emma was staying in the guest room. In the kitchen, Blake made coffee while Tiana and Emma sat at the table. "So what's next for you two?" Emma asked. "What do you mean?" Tiana asked. "I mean, you've been co-parenting for years now. Ever thought about making it official?" Blake nearly dropped the coffee pot. "We're not together like that." "We're friends," Tiana added quickly. "Co-parents." Emma raised an eyebrow. "If you say so." After Emma went to bed, Blake and Tiana sat on the back porch looking at the stars. "Your sister has interesting ideas," Blake said. Tiana laughed softly. She's always trying to create perfect happy endings. I think we've created something better than that, Blake said. Something real. We have, Tiana agreed. Something that works for us and for the boys. They talked about the twins' upcoming school year, Tiana's fellowship, and Blake's newest project, a safety device specifically designed for children with special needs. I need to get home, Tiana said eventually, standing up. Early shift tomorrow. Blake walked her to her car. The boys and I will bring you lunch at the hospital. They love visiting. They just love the vending machines in the waiting room, Tiana joked. That too, Blake admitted. After Tiana drove away, Blake went back inside. He checked on the twins, both sleeping soundly, surrounded by new toys. He adjusted Ethan's blanket and moved Elijah's stuffed dinosaur closer to his hand. In his own bedroom, Blake looked at the photos on his dresser. The twins as babies, their first steps, their first day of preschool, and one old photo of himself standing alone in front of his Malibu mansion, looking successful, but somehow empty. Blake's phone rang. It was Maria Chen calling from California. "Sorry to call so late," she said. "Just wanted to let you know the hospital in Chicago loved the new security system. They've already recommended it to 5 other facilities." "That's great news," Blake said. "How was the birthday party?" Maria asked. "Perfect," Blake replied. "Completely perfect." After hanging up, Blake stood at his bedroom window, looking out at the quiet street. 3 years ago, his life had been disrupted in the most unexpected way. What he had viewed as his worst nightmare had become his greatest joy. Blake thought about the legacy he was creating now, not just financial security for his sons, but lessons about what truly mattered in life. Not the size of your house or the cost of your car, but the time you spend with people you love. Tomorrow, Blake would take the twins to the Science Museum, then for ice cream, then to the park to ride their new bikes. Simple pleasures that the old Blake would have delegated to a nanny while he worked. The irony wasn't lost on him. He had spent years building security systems to protect people's homes, only to discover that real security had nothing to do with alarms or cameras. Real security came from knowing you were loved, supported, and never alone. Blake Williams, once defined by his wealth and freedom, had found something far more valuable. A family he never expected, but now couldn't imagine living without. If you enjoyed today's video, I'm sure you'll love the next one. Don't waste time. Just click on the screen.